The Dartmouth voters will be asked to fund an $8.4 million renovation for the police station in this election. Do you feel this is the best option for the police department? If yes, why? And if no, what would your plan be for the future needs of the Dartmouth Police Department?
When you go to vote on April 5th, you'll be also deciding on a question on the renovation of the police station. The proposal that's before you is the best solution that the town can afford at this time, and it's also the best solution for the building. We have a perfectly good building that is still there, and to renovate it to today's needs, we'll be able to keep that building viable and purposeful for at least the next 50 years. The most important part of any building, of course, is maintaining the building throughout the years and making sure that it is always maintained properly, and that's part of the process afterwards that I intend to work on, and making sure that we don't go back to what we had with the problems that we had in that building. For the most important part of the whole thing, of course, is the cost. And with the cost stretched over a period of years on the bond, the implications on the tax rate is very small. We will have more information at a meeting at the Select Board on the 28th of March to discuss this and to get some more information out. But the only information out, if you have any questions on the police station, you can contact the Select Board or look for the information that'll be on the town website.
It's clear that the police department cannot continue working out of trailers. This situation was intended as a temporary band-aid while a long-term solution was developed. Town meeting recently approved a recommendation by the building committee to replace the current station with a new building that meets the police department's long-term needs. No one is particularly happy about spending $8 million, but this proposal is a middle ground in terms of cost. The proposal ensures that we get this right and that we're not throwing good money after bad. If maintained properly, the building should meet the town's needs for at least 30 years. As a town meeting member, I voted for this proposal, and I encourage town voters to approve the debt exclusion that will be on the April 5th ballot.
Taxpayers have asked several questions in regard to the police station. Why do we need to renovate? Will we have to do it again? And is the police station in the best location? One reason we are in this situation is because of shoddy workmanship. Our previous general contractor was a poor choice. The biggest reason we are in this situation is because we did not hire a clerk of the works, someone who represented our interests concerning workmanship, quality, and safety. Instead, the town chose to save money and be our own clerk of the works. This time it will be different. We hired a good, reputable contractor who specializes in municipal buildings, especially police stations, and who has a verifiable reputation and track record of excellent workmanship. This time we will have a clerk of the works who will hold weekly meetings with town officials, the contractor, and subcontractors, and look out for the best interests of the town. People have raised concerns about the location of the building. Several policemen have told me the physical location of the building is not important to them. In a case of emergency, officers are not deployed from the station, but are redirected from their patrols. As a member of the Finance Committee, I couldn't believe we were being asked last year to vote on the police station without reviewing it. So I asked the Finance Committee to be able to tour the facility before we had discussions and a committee vote. My request was approved, and Acting Chief Zala gave us a tour and outlined the construction history of the building. Town meeting members, my colleagues on the Finance Committee, and I are in favor of this $8.4 million renovation. Not only is it the least expensive option, but Acting Chief Zala said the renovation will support police needs for the next 40 years.
The latest pension, retirement, and health care charges for the town are estimated to be $54 million. The town is currently budgeting $200,000 a year for this line item. Do you feel that this budget number is adequate? Do Do you want to increase or decrease the allocated budget amount? Please explain where you would like to see the funds returned to or taken from.
This is a really difficult question to answer. What we know is that Dartmouth recently received a AAA bond rating from Standard & Poor. This is the highest rating possible. In evaluating the town's finances, the ratings agency considered the town's pension system. According to Standard & Poor, Dartmouth's total pension contributions were 6.2% of total spending in 2014. Of that amount, 4.4% was for pension obligations and 1.8% was for OPEB payments. It seems to me that if the town's contributions were out of line, Standard & Poor would have raised concerns and those issues would have affected the town's bond rating. We also know that Dartmouth is part of the Bristol County retirement system, which has a current funding ratio of 61.4%. The goal is to be fully funded by 2029. This goal is based on actuarial calculations that assume growth based on future interest rates. A reasonable question is whether these assumptions about interest rates are realistic. If these assumptions are optimistic, the town may need to increase its contributions. It seems to me that assumptions about interest rates are critical and need to be evaluated on a regular basis to ensure that the town will be able to meet its pension obligations.
$54 million is a lot of money, and there's no clear-cut, easy answer to this problem. Is $200,000 a year adequate on a pending $54 million bill? Absolutely not. However, setting aside $200,000 complies with state law and has allowed the town to achieve a strong AAA bond rating. There are negatives to paying off this liability early. We as a town would not be able to offer the same level of services to our residents as they receive now. The town may not qualify for future reimbursements from the state or federal government because our situation is not as dire as our neighboring towns or cities. Historically, Dartmouth has implemented good, solid fiscal responsibility. It is unlikely that the state or federal government will step in to help us due to their own future liabilities. The town should not add to this liability. The town should strive to leave its financial house in better condition for the next generation.
The situation regarding the pension reform is not just a town problem, but it's also a Commonwealth problem, and it's also a United States problem. But the town is addressing the problem in small portions. In order for us to really take care of this problem, we would need to have any type of an override of multiple millions of dollars, $40 to $50 million to take care of this problem. And there's just no way that's going to happen. The town right now is socking away money to address this problem, probably more than any other community in the state. But the state also has to do it itself and also needs to address this problem. We are hopeful that by the state addressing the problem, we'll be able to take care of this problem down the line, but also have a step up in taking care of the problem with some funds already added. The last thing we need to do is what Dartmouth did back when 2.5 came about. Prior to 2.5, the town was reevaluated and all the valuation of the properties were done. We were only 3 communities in the state that did that. So when 2.5 came in, the town wasn't getting its full share of state money to help us. In fact, we've been shorted all these years. This is the last thing we want to do is to head the problem with the pension reform and then have the state come in and bail out all the other communities, and Dartmouth is going to be left short. I don't see that happening. I don't see the state bailing out the communities either, but I also see a responsible reform to be done statewide and then down to the local levels.
Residents in the last election voted in a non-binding question to change the form of government. However, they were split as to which form of government was the best for the town. Do you believe the form of government needs to be changed in Dartmouth? If yes, what form of government would you like to see in Dartmouth? If no, please explain. Would you support moving forward with an elected charter commission to review the charter and recommend changes if needed?
As you know, Dartmouth is governed by a representative town meeting form of government. Our government, our town meeting acts as our legislative body. Framingham, the largest town in the state, with a population of 68,000 people, still uses a town meeting form of government. Dartmouth's population is approximately 34,000. That said, I believe town meeting still works for us. It allows every voice to be heard. As a longtime town meeting member, I've witnessed the positive participation of our community on important issues. With your support and input, I've initiated and passed 3 bylaws at town meeting with major voter support. No, I do not believe we need to change our form of government at this time. A change in our government may be a consideration for the future as the needs change and Dartmouth grows. It seems irresponsible at this point to spend time and money on the question of changing the form of government and/or an elected charter commission when the town is facing decreased revenues in the future. We should focus our energy on a commission dedicated to finding a solution for our $54 million future health and pension liability.
The actual form of government question really kind of split the community down, or those people who voted. It's very difficult at this point in time to say which way we should go, because there are many, the way we have our government now works in so many ways, but yet there are some holes in it that need to be addressed. I don't envision a mayor, but I do envision somewhat of a town council with a town manager type situation. But at this point in time, I think what really needs to be addressed is the town meeting membership. For years, there have always been holes or slots that have never been filled by town meeting members. And right now, the easiest way to get to be a town meeting member is not to go out and get signatures on a nomination paper, but just wait and then write your name in and have a couple people write your name in, and then with 3 or 4 votes, you become a town meeting member. That needs to change. Either we need to reduce the number of town meeting members to make it truly more of a representative of the community, and because town meeting does work. It is a viable and a resourceful type of government that we currently operate on. And right now, it's working. Down the line, maybe it shouldn't, and it needs to be looked at. And yes, if we're going to do any type of a charter change, it should be an elected charter and not just an appointed charter, because an elected charter goes directly to the voters, and it's the voters that are the ones that ultimately make the decision on how they want to be governed.
It seems unfortunate to me that there has been a concerted effort to convince town residents that town government is broken. In order to influence public opinion, a lot of political hot air has been spent painting a picture that the sky is falling. Proposals for major structural changes have been advanced without any real justification. The reality is that Dartmouth has recently received a AAA bond rating from Standard & Poor's, which is the highest possible rating. This is hardly the stuff of a broken town government. In fact, the Standard & Poor's report describes Dartmouth as a town with a very healthy economy, strong management, and with a strong budgetary performance. Proposals to eliminate town meeting also seem particularly misguided to me. It is getting harder and harder to get people to vote, let alone participate in local government. In fact, less than 11% of registered voters turned out at the last town election. Yet, we have over 300 town meeting members who play an active role in running the town. It seems to me that instead of eliminating town meeting, we should celebrate it and encourage even greater participation. For example, we should consider holding the annual town meeting on a Saturday to allow working people the opportunity to participate. Of course, there is always room to improve town government. A culture of continuous improvement is essential for long-term success. For example, we should continue to improve the town's computer systems in order to achieve efficiencies across multiple departments. It seems to me that town government is fundamentally sound and that it is providing quality services to town residents. What we need is evolution, not revolution. Instead of wasting our valuable time on trying to blow up town government, let's spend that time addressing the real issues that impact people's daily lives.
Not including the police department headquarters, the town has many aging buildings, including school and municipal buildings. We must also include the proposed demolition of the Tucker Road Library for the relocation of Tucker Road. What do you think the top 3 building or infrastructure priorities are? How would you propose funding could be handled for these projects?
First off, any major building has to be done through debt exclusion. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it because the town really cannot afford any type of new buildings. Renovations, maybe down the line you put money away every year until you need it. But right now, our building concerns, number 1, of course, is the police station. Number 2 is the Tucker Road Library relocation. 3, well, it's the town hall, it's the pool school. There are renovations going on right now to kind of give the building a new exterior, a better exterior, and that's being done through capital improvements. Our schools back in the 80s, early 90s were in deplorable condition. And since the school department had a self-maintenance program where where the staff would be licensed, trained, and utilized to work within the school departments, their buildings have become properly maintained and well maintained over the last 15, 20 years. The town needs to do that too. The town can no longer bring in outside contractors to do plumbing work, electrical work, carpentry work. The town needs to have its own maintenance staff. In the next 3 years, I plan on proposing something similar to that. I've been talking about it for the last year and a half. It's time to do it. Whether we add to the staff of the current school department maintenance staff and utilize them as a town-wide staff, or having the town have its own crew. I prefer to utilize the school department staff and make it all into a single maintenance staff, so our buildings are properly maintained and well maintained over the years.
There is no doubt that our public buildings are aging and will eventually need to be replaced. But it seems to me that an effective maintenance program is the key to prolonging the life of existing buildings. Much like the maintenance that we do in our own homes, regular maintenance is necessary to avoid more costly investments. It's unfortunate that the state of Massachusetts seems to reward new construction over maintenance. But the capital improvements that we are making at Town Hall and that we continue to make at our schools will help to prolong the life of these buildings and defer the cost of replacing them. Nevertheless, we will eventually need to replace older buildings. One of the constraints that we will face will be the lack of town-owned land. It seems to me that we need to be on the lookout for parcels that could be used by the town over the long term. If land becomes available that could support a central location for municipal services, the town should consider buying the property for future needs.
I raised my concern at a Finance Committee meeting about our aging buildings. After we move forward with the police station, our top priority should be the schools. The Lincoln Park development has many new families moving into Dartmouth, and this will put pressure on our school system, especially the Potter School. I would not prioritize any additional projects until I hear back from the school committee as to their future needs. I recommend we pay for all large projects with a debt exclusion, which is a one-time increase in our taxes. A one-time cost similar to the high school debt, a debt which will be retired soon. I am not in favor of a Proposition 2.5 override. If we vote to override Proposition 2.5, this would be a permanent increase in our taxes. I believe all large-scale funding requests should be voted on by the entire town.
For the last few years, town departments have been asked to provide a level-funded budget. However, many departments have requested additional staff. Are there any departments that you feel needs additional staff? Do you feel a need to add any additional departments to service the community? If yes, how would you go about funding the new position or department?
My experience in private industry and in town government is that no one ever has enough staff. For example, when I was first elected to the planning board, we had 4 town employees in the planning office, a town planner, an assistant town planner, a full-time administrative assistant, and a part-time position. We now only have 2 positions, a planning director and a single planning aide. Could we use additional help? Like many other departments, I think the answer is yes. But in a climate of slowing growth in Dartmouth, the question should be, is there a compelling need for additional staff? Not too long ago, we were shutting off streetlights to save a few dollars. Like other communities, we have increasing costs that we cannot control, such as the cost of health care. We also continue to address our underfunded pension program. And we can't rely on a high rate of commercial growth for new sources of revenue. Like our own personal budgets, we need to be careful about adding long-term costs to the town budget. Every new position adds to the town's health care costs and to the town's long-term pension liability. To be financially responsible, we need to review every request for new positions very carefully to ensure that the positions are essential and only add new positions when there is a compelling reason to do so.
Several departments once again submitted level-funded budgets to the Finance Committee this year. I applaud their efforts to control spending. However, this was easier to achieve because Dartmouth was the beneficiary of lower energy costs and lower snow removal costs due to our mild winter. These costs could easily fluctuate next year. There have been requests for additional staff for a proposed North Dartmouth Library and the expanded DPW garage. Before making any decisions on adding employees, we need to see a cost justification detailing a savings and benefit to the town. As a previous member of the planning board for 7 years, I personally witnessed cuts to staff and their effects. I saw how well they rebounded and did more with less. We cannot, in good conscience and without serious consideration, add more employees or departments at this time with our $54 million pension and health liability.
Well, overall, our departments are running basically bare minimum and down to the bone. And that, in many ways, gives us a good leg up on services. However, departments like the Council on Aging need to be looked at and to see if more staff is available. You have basically 4 people in that department and they service over 7,500 people during the course of the year. That is an awful lot. There are other departments that could use additional staff, such as the DPW. And there are also some departments that need to be looked at in the way of maybe combining them. Prime example would be a Department of Natural Resources. That you can roll in the Conservation Commission, the Harbor Master, the Shellfish Department, the Parks into one single department to utilize their work in several areas. And you could save money by doing so. Another one would be health and safety, where you would have the building department, the health department, and probably maybe a few other smaller boards rolled into the same department. So you need to take a look at it, but what you need to do is you need to have a plan in doing so. You just can't go in and say, look, this is how we need to do it. You have to look at it, check other communities how it works out, and something that I believe the town could use over the next couple of decades.
The town has been at the forefront for alternative energy projects. What is your vision for the town moving forward within this area?
We can be very proud of our alternative energy efforts. Dartmouth was an early adopter of solar technology. A consideration for wind turbines was not well received by residents, and a financial analysis at the time indicated solar to be more advantageous. Today, our town is the leading producer of solar power in the state with over 177 solar projects. When Dartmouth switched to LED streetlights, we saved thousands of dollars. Eversource is aggressively working with both residential homes and small businesses for energy improvements. However, National Grid has reached their capacity for commercial solar installation projects. We are limited in the future for solar developments by state legislature, available land, and proximity to substations. However, I believe we need to continue to find ways to save. Collaboration with UMass could offer new ideas and point us in a new direction.
With adding more solar projects to the town, basically you have to look at what is the grid going to accept. Eversource can only handle so much, and if they're at the capacity, then we can't put any more projects in. I am not a proponent of wind, and solar power has been a boon to this town. The town of Dartmouth is the #1 solar producer in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're proud of that fact, and it all depends upon the grid, if the grid can accept more. If it can't accept any more, then it's difficult. Plus the fact that you also need the Commonwealth to renew its solar program, and which would provide incentives to build these solar farms throughout the entire Commonwealth. So personally though, I would like to see the town start looking into solar panels into the school buildings, also into our own buildings, and you know, to provide a little additional boost to so that we're not getting everything off you know, paying Eversource for our bills for our electricity. Plus the fact that now that we're in the energy aggregate program, and we should have started seeing some savings over a period of time. I know my personal bill has gone down a little bit, and that little bit over, you know, several months is going to mean a lot. So can we do more? Yeah, but we need help from the Commonwealth, especially when it comes time to renewing the solar program.
I am absolutely in favor of alternative energy projects that generate additional revenue for the town and that reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. But that does not mean that it's an all or nothing proposition. Our zoning bylaws give us the opportunity to locate these projects where they are most suitable and where they have the least impact on residential neighborhoods. I continue to be opposed to large-scale commercial projects for wind turbines and solar farms in residential neighborhoods. When it comes to solar farms, it seems to me that there is no virtue in clearing 30 acres of forest to build a solar farm, especially when the character of the residential neighborhood is destroyed. Having said that, there may be room in residential districts for new solar farms where the land has already been disturbed and is no longer suitable for housing. I have advocated allowing construction of solar farms by special permit on polluted brownfields, and I think we should consider allowing these types of projects in the future. Ultimately, as solar technology becomes more efficient and affordable, the focus will be more on individual homes, and large-scale projects may become less desirable. In the meantime, I am in favor of alternative energy projects in areas where they are currently allowed by zoning.